Hi guys, and welcome to Quiet Voice podcast channel. Tonight we're stepping aboard a passenger train in 1958, bound for Lake Placid, while a blizzard folds the world into white silence beyond the windows. You stand beneath the station canopy with snow gathering on your shoulders, feeling the cold press through your coat while warm light spills from the train like a promise. The engine breathes ahead, steady and patient, as if it knows the way through weather that would make any sensible person stay home with soup and a blanket. So, before you settle into the story, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. And as the platform clock glows above the drifting snow, share your location and local time in the comments, so this quiet journey can gather travellers from many faraway rooms. Your hand closes around the rail, your foot rises to the step. Now it's time to rest. Inside, the cold falls away almost at once. You enter a narrow vestibule where the metal floor trembles beneath your shoes, and the scent changes from snow and cold smoke to wool, polish, and faint coffee. The conductor checks your ticket with a practiced glance, not unfriendly, simply efficient, the way a man becomes when winter has tried to impress him too many times. His punch clicks through the card, a small crescent of paper drops into his palm. Records confirm that by 1958, American passenger rail travel still linked many mountain towns and winter resorts, even as automobiles and airlines were already drawing more travellers away from the rails. Tonight, though, the train does not feel like a fading custom. It feels like a moving hotel, a glowing corridor of human stubbornness. Prepared to cross a storm because the timetable says so, you move forward carefully, one hand grazing the cool edge of the wall. The carriage door opens with a sigh, and there it is, the passenger car waiting in soft amber light. Rows of seats face the dark windows. Overhead racks hold leather bags, paper-wrapped parcels, a hat box with a small dent in one corner, and one mysterious bundle tied with twine, because every train needs at least one item that looks as though it contains either harmless socks or state secrets. The seats are wide, upholstered in fabric that has known 1,000 coats and tired backs. A woman near the aisle lifts her gloved fingers from a magazine. A man across from her folds a newspaper but does not quite stop reading it. You feel the train breathing through the floor. The storm presses against the glass before departure, as if trying to board without paying. Snow slides down the pane in brief shining streaks. Beyond it, the platform lamps blur into halos. Somewhere outside, a baggage cart squeaks over packed snow, his wheels complaining with more honesty than dignity. You notice trunks being loaded into the baggage car. Stiff blankets over shoulders, boots stamping, the faint ring of a metal latch. The station master walks past with his collar turned high, his lantern swinging low at his side. The flame inside it appears small, almost shy, yet it marks the edge of order against a night that has decided to erase edges altogether. You find your seat beside the window. The fabric is firm at first and then softens under you. The armrest is worn smooth by many hands. You slide your bag under the seat and lean back, allowing the sounds to arrange themselves. A murmur from 2 college boys near the rear, a cough from an older gentleman who seems disappointed in the entire century, a child asking whether Lake Placid is actually made of ice, which, to be fair, is not the worst question ever asked by a tired child near bedtime. The mother answers gently. The child accepts the answer with deep suspicion. Snow taps the windows like 1,000 small fingers. Oddly enough, some rail travellers in this period still carried small personal comforts that now feel almost ceremonial. Travel slippers, folding cups, tiny bottles of cologne, wrapped sandwiches, and pocket alarm clocks, as if the modern world could be tamed by being neatly packed. You imagine your own little world arranged around you. Ticket, gloves, scarf, a book you may not read, a timetable you do not need but keep checking anyway. The train invites this behaviour. It makes every passenger feel temporally important, as though you are not merely going somewhere, but participating in a grand and slightly padded ritual. The lamps above glow through frosted shades. Their light rests on faces without demanding much from them. This is part of the comfort, you realise. No one has to perform here. People simply sit, adjust, wait, and become smaller than the weather outside. A young couple across the aisle speaks in low voices, their knees angled towards each other. The man has a narrow tie and a careful haircut. The woman wears a dark coat with a fur-trimmed collar, and she keeps looking out at the storm with the expression of someone who has chosen romance and is now reviewing the weather clause. Near the front, a salesman opens a leather case, checks a stack of papers, then closes it again. Defeated by the rocking quiet before the train has even moved. A bell rings outside. It is not loud, yet everyone hears it. Conversation thins. The porter passes through, steady despite the uneven floor. His jacket neat, his face calm, his hands already prepared for requests that have not yet been spoken. In this era, railway porters and attendants carried enormous responsibility for comfort, safety, luggage, bedding, and dignity. Especially on longer journeys, the work could be exhausting, underpraised, and bound by strict social expectations. Still, in the lamplight, his gestures have the grace of a craft. He answers a question about the dining car. He lifts a bag into the rack. He tells the mother that hot chocolate may be available later, which causes the child to rejoin civilization. The train gives a faint backward tug, then settles. You feel the couplers tighten down the line. Somewhere ahead, the engine exhales. The sound travels through metal, wood, glass, and bone. It is not just noise, it is intention. You turn your head toward the window, but the glass now shows more of the inside than the outside. Your own face floats there over the snow and softened by the lamplight. Behind your reflection, the platform begins to slide. Slowly at first, a post moves past, then a stack of crates, then the station sign, blurred by snow, appears and vanishes. You're leaving. Scholars still debate how to measure the emotional end of the passenger rail age in America, whether it should be counted in ticket sales, abandoned routes, changing technology, or the quieter loss of shared rituals like this one. Tonight, such arguments feel far away. You're not standing in a lecture hall, you're sitting in a warm carriage while 1958 gathers itself around you in brass handles, wool collars, rattling windows, and the lovely arrogance of a train that believes a blizzard is only another form of scenery. The town slips behind. Houses appear briefly, each window glowing with its own private weather. Then the lights grow fewer, the track bends, and the carriage leans with a slow, confident motion. The wheels find their rhythm beneath you, steel answering steel in a pattern that seems older than sleep. Snow gathers along the lower edge of the window. The lamps hum softly. Someone turns a page. Someone else whispers goodnight without meaning to sleep yet. You rest your shoulder against the seat and let the first mile lengthen into the second. The blizzard follows, surrounds, and fades into whiteness. But inside the train there is warmth, motion, and the strange peace of surrendering your direction to someone else. You do not have to steer. You do not have to judge the road. You only have to ride, breathe, listen, and let Lake Placid wait somewhere beyond the dark. The carriage receives you with the kind of quiet that is not empty, but carefully layered. You settle deeper into your seat, and the lamps above you seem to lower the ceiling of the world, drawing everyone into a shared pocket of warmth. Their glow is honey-coloured, softened by glass shades and faint dust, and it rests on the curved metal trim, the stitched upholstery, and the polished edges of the luggage racks. Outside, the blizzard keeps trying to turn the windows into blank white walls. Inside, every small fixture insists that life can remain orderly, even when the weather is being dramatic for no extra charge. Your fingers explore the seat beside you. The fabric is coarse in a comforting way, not luxurious like a grand hotel, but sturdy, clean, and familiar. It has the texture of something meant to survive winter coats, spilled coffee, sleeping children, and the nervous twisting of gloves. You feel the slight give of the cushion beneath you, the creak of springs, the steady tremor rising from the rails. The armrest is narrow and rounded, with a tiny ashtray fitted into it, because in 1958, many passenger cars still treated smoking as ordinary, almost as expected as breathing. It is a small historical fact tucked right under your elbow, a reminder that comfort once came with a cloud of habits we would now politely open a window about. Across the aisle, a woman adjusts the pins in her hat without looking into a mirror. She has the calm authority of someone who has packed sandwiches in wax paper and will absolutely not be surprised by anything less than a fallen bridge. Near her feet, a square handbag rests upright like a loyal dog. 2 seats ahead, an older man removes his spectacles, rubs them with a handkerchief, and studies the fogged window, as if winter might become clearer through discipline. A young soldier in a dark overcoat sits very straight, then slowly loses the argument with sleep. His chin dips once, rises, dips again, and finally accepts defeat with dignity. The lamps make a separate story out of every face. One forehead shines, one cheek glows, one pair of eyes disappears under a hat brim. The passenger car becomes a gallery of half-seen lives, each person carrying a destination, a worry, a private hope, perhaps a pair of socks that should have been darned last spring. You do not know them, yet the train makes them part of your evening. The aisle runs between you like a narrow street, shoes tap lightly, a coat button clicks against the seat frame, a paper bag rustles, someone opens a tin of mints, and a brief sharp sweetness slips through the warmer smells of wool, dust, metal, and coffee. The overhead fixtures sway almost too slightly to notice. When the train curves, their glow tilts across the carriage, and shadows stretch over the aisle. This movement gives the interior a breathing quality. Nothing is fixed for long. The light drifts, returns, and drifts again. You watch it move over the rack above you, where a brown suitcase sits with brass corners dulled by years of handling. Beside it, a plaid blanket roll is tied with a strap. Farther down, a paper parcel has been placed with such care that you begin to suspect it contains either a cake, a clock, or a very judgmental fruit cake that has survived since the holidays. A curious footnote from mid-century travel is that passengers often chose their favourite railway cars not only by comfort, but by the personality of the ride. Some cars were known among regulars as warm, drafty, smooth, noisy, lucky, unlucky, or simply better for sleeping. It sounds a little superstitious, but sitting here, you understand, every carriage has a temperament. This one is patient, it rattles, yes, and occasionally sighs through the joints, but it does not fuss. It keeps its lamp steady. It lets its passengers become drowsy at their own pace. You lean your head back and notice the ceiling panels. They are not perfectly white, but cream-coloured, mellowed by years of smoke, winter breath, and cleaning cloths. Vent grills line the upper walls. The heating moves in soft, invisible currents, gathering around your ankles, then rising under your coat. In many trains of this period, steam heat from the locomotive or auxiliary systems helped warm the cars, a practical arrangement that made the whole train feel like one connected body. You can almost imagine warmth travelling through pipes and valves, from the labouring engine into this quiet room on wheels, reaching your feet as a small mercy. The conductor passes again, not checking tickets now, only observing. His uniform catches the lamplight along the buttons. His gaze moves without intruding. He notices the child curled sideways, the loose suitcase strap, the man whose newspaper is sliding toward the floor. He tucks the paper back into the gentleman's lap with a motion so smooth the sleeper does not wake. That is the sort of kindness travel rarely advertises. No grand speech, no trumpet, just a newspaper rescued from the aisle before it becomes someone else's midnight problem. Arguments split among transportation historians over whether the mid-century coach car should be remembered as democratic comfort or modest compromise. It was public, shared, and often affordable. Yet it could also be crowded, smoky, and unequal in service depending on route, class, and region. Sitting beneath these soft lamps, you sense both truths at once. The carriage is not perfect, the upholstery scratches a little, the air carries too many lives in it. A latch somewhere keeps ticking against its frame, yet the place holds people gently. It gathers strangers without asking them to become friends. It permits silence, which is a generous thing. The storm makes the interior feel even more complete. Snow strikes the window, melts, freezes again, and thickens the border of the glass. The outside has become almost unreadable, a moving pale darkness beyond your reflection. Inside, the lamps remain loyal. They glow on hat brims, knuckles, book pages, polished shoes, and the sleeping soldier's folded hands. You listen to the wheels grow steadier, their rhythm becoming less like machinery and more like a quiet instruction. Stay, breathe, drift. A woman near the rear begins knitting, her needles clicking softly in time with the rails. The sound is small, but it travels. Click, roll, click, roll. The older man with the spectacles finally lets his eyes close. The child has stopped asking questions and now sleeps with one mitten still on. You shift under your coat, feeling your body accept the seat, the light, the shared warmth, and the slow privacy that can exist even among strangers. The carriage does not hurry you toward dreams, it simply makes room for them. The lamps glow lower in your imagination. The upholstery cradles your shoulders. The blizzard keeps its white vigil beyond the glass. But in here, each quiet traveller becomes part of the shelter, and the train carries all of you onward through the deep winter night. The train gathers itself beneath you with a deeper pull, and the station lights slide away until they become little golden beads strung along the darkness. You feel the change first through the soles of your shoes. The tremor becomes steadier, firmer, more certain. Steel wheels press against steel rails with a clean, ringing patience, and the whole carriage begins to sing in a low mechanical lullaby. It is not a song with melody exactly, and it is a pattern, a pulse, a calm insistence that distance can be crossed one measured turn at a time. Outside the window, the town loosens its grip. A row of houses passes, each with a porch lamp burning in the snow. A parked automobile crouches under a white cap. A mailbox leans at the roadside like it has heard enough news for one lifetime. Then the last street lamp fades, and the world opens into winter fields. The snow does not fall straight. It slants, swirls, and rushes sideways, streaking past the glass as the train moves forward. You are not looking at weather now. You are travelling through it. The wheels find the joints in the track, and each meeting sends a soft report through the floor. Not sharp, not harsh, more like a clock too large to fit inside a room. Your body starts to understand the rhythm before your mind does. Shoulder, back, breath, heartbeat, everything slowly agrees with the rails. Records confirm that steel wheel on steel rail travel is efficient because the contact creates far less rolling resistance than rubber tyres on roads, allowing great weight to move with surprising economy. That fact sounds dry in daylight. The sort of thing printed in a manual by someone with heroic respect for numbers. Here, in the storm, it feels almost poetic. The train glides because metal trusts metal. You watch the reflection in the window tremble over the passing snow. Your own face appears and disappears, layered with ghostly fields and black tree lines. Fence posts flicker by, then a frozen ditch, then a barn whose roof is loaded with snow. For a few seconds, Yellow light shines through a crack in the barn door, and you imagine horses shifting in straw, a farm dog lifting its head, a person inside listening to the distant thunder of the train. Then the barn is gone. The countryside takes it back. The sound deepens as the train crosses a small bridge. Beneath you, iron supports answer with a hollow boom, and for a moment the wheels seem to drum over empty air. You feel the carriage rise into a slight sway, then settle on the far side. A dark stream appears below, only partly frozen. Its black water moving between white banks. Snow gathers on the bridge railings like folded cloth. The view vanishes almost immediately, but it leaves a trace in your mind. A small cold brightness under the moving warmth. Oddly enough, rail workers and frequent passengers sometimes learn to identify stretches of track by sound alone. A certain curve, a bridge, a crossing, a change in rail joint spacing. Each could carry its own signature. It is the kind of knowledge that seems useless until you are half asleep in winter and realise the world has become a language of clacks, hums, groans, and pauses. You may not know the line. Not truly, but the train knows it. The wheels read the route as fingers read a familiar banister in the dark. The carriage rocks gently from side to side. A coat sleeve brushes the seat behind you. Somewhere, a cup shifts in its saucer with a tiny ceramic complaint. The storm thickens against the window, but the motion holds steady. You begin to sense how different this is from travel by road. There is no steering wheel in your hands, no need to squint through the windshield, no tyres searching for grip on hidden ice. You are carried. That is the luxury. Not velvet, not chandeliers, not silver service. Although those would be nice, naturally, and no one would refuse a warm pastry out of principle. The luxury is surrender. A distant crossing bell rings outside, and faint and quickly swallowed by snow. The train gives a long whistle, low and mournful, and the sound opens across the fields. You imagine it reaching farmhouses, frozen lanes, and dark kitchens where someone has left a kettle on the stove. The whistle does not ask permission from the night. It simply announces that the train is coming through, weather or no weather, with passengers wrapped in wool and lamplight, moving toward the mountains. No agreement has been reached on whether the romance of rail travel comes mostly from the machinery, the scenery, or the rare social mood created when strangers share a moving room. The argument is almost too tidy, because here the answer feels like all of it. The machinery gives you rhythm, the scenery gives you mystery, the strangers give you scale. You are one person among many, and the train is larger than all of you, yet it bends itself towards human comfort, with heat, seats, lamps, and someone somewhere responsible for the brakes. Snow begins to crust along the lower edge of the pane. It builds in uneven ridges, catching stray light from inside the carriage. Through the cleared centre of the glass, black trunks of trees pass in sudden clusters. The forest comes close, then falls away. Sometimes the branches are so heavy with snow that they bow towards the train as if listening. Sometimes open ground appears, pale and empty, with no mark except the dark line of the rails ahead. You cannot see far, and that becomes restful. The world has kindly reduced itself to what passes the window. The wheels continue their patient conversation with the track. They do not hurry in a nervous way. They do not hesitate. Their rhythm says that progress can be quiet, that endurance can be ordinary, that even a blizzard must make room for repeated motion. You breathe with it. The carriage sways with it. The lamps tremble with it. The snow races beside you. But inside the train, time becomes round and smooth, turning like steel wheels through the white hush of the night. The dining car opens ahead with a warmer, brighter glow, as though the train has hidden a small restaurant inside its moving body and is rather pleased with the trick. You step through the connecting door with one hand on the rail, feeling the floor shift under you as the cars flex together. Cold air sneaks briefly through the vestibule seam, touches your cheek, then disappears behind the heavier scent of coffee, toasted bread, hot gravy, and polished wood. It's amazing how quickly civilization can be restored by the smell of supper. The room is narrow, but it has ceremony. White tablecloths lie clipped at the corners so they do not slide away at the first serious curve. Small shaded lamps sit along the tables, making little islands of gold. Silverware rests beside folded napkins. Glasses tremble with the motion, catching light in quick flashes. Outside, snow rushes sideways past the windows, but in here the plates are warm. The coffee is fresh, and the storm has been politely denied a reservation. You're shown to a table near the window. The steward places a menu before you with a practiced tilt of the wrist. His jacket is bright, his shoes shine, and his balance is so natural that he seems less like a man walking through a rocking train and more like a man walking through a room that happens to be pretending to move. A mainstream historical fact settles quietly into the scene by the middle of the 20th century. Many long-distance passenger trains in North America still treated the dining car as a mark of serious service, with cooked meals served at real tables rather than merely handed out as packaged food. You run your fingers over the edge of the menu. The paper is slightly stiff. The choices are simple, filling, and comforting. Roast meat, potatoes, soup, vegetables, pie, coffee, tea. Nothing appears to be sprinkled with fashionable leaves or described as an experience, which is restful. Food is food, supper is supper. The train rocks, the snow falls, and you consider pie with the level of attention usually reserved for major life decisions. At the next table, two women speak softly over cups of coffee. One wears pearl earrings and keeps both hands around her cup for warmth. The other has removed her gloves and folded them beside her plate, fingers still pink from the platform cold. Across the aisle, a man studies the menu and asks the steward whether the chicken is good. The steward answers, with magnificent diplomacy, that many passengers enjoy it. That sentence may be the finest safe harbour in the history of food service. The silverware gives a gentle chime as the train rounds a bend. A spoon slides a fraction of an inch, then stops against a folded napkin. You notice how everyone adjusts without thinking. A hand steadies a glass, a knee braces against the table support. A plate is turned slightly to avoid a drip of sauce. Dining here is not passive. It is a quiet partnership with motion. You eat while the world moves, and somehow this makes every bite feel earned. Your soup arrives first, steam rising in pale ribbons. The bowl is set down with care, and the surface trembles as though reflecting a tiny indoor pond. You lift the spoon, the taste is salty, warm, and plain in the best possible way. Outside the window, the blizzard thickens until the glass becomes a pale mirror. For a moment, you see the dining car reflected over the storm faces. Lamps, white cloths, raised cups, and in your own spoon paused halfway to your mouth. It looks like a room floating through milk. A curious aside from railway dining culture is that some chefs and stewards became famous among regular passengers for particular dishes, especially pies, rolls, soups, or breakfast cakes. People remembered routes by appetite. They could speak with great seriousness about which line served the better coffee, as though discussing foreign policy, but with more emotion and probably better evidence. Tonight, the pie has that kind of authority. It waits under a glass cover at the service end of the car, each slice holding its shape with quiet pride. Your main plate arrives with potatoes and dark gravy, the kind that shines under lamplight. The smell is rich and sleepy. You eat slowly, listening to the layers of sound. The wheels pulse below. The wind presses at the windows. Dishes clink. Low voices rise and fall. The steward calls an order toward the kitchen door. Behind it, hidden labour keeps the illusion alive. Pans lifted, coffee poured, plates warmed, all within a space too small for anyone who enjoys dramatic arm movements. The storm outside grows rougher. Snow strikes the glass in bursts, then smears away. Now and then the train whistle sounds, long and low, and conversation pauses for half a breath. Not from fear exactly, more from respect. Everyone understands that beyond this glowing room lies a dark country of drifts, frozen trees, buried roads, and signals half veiled by snow. Yet the coffee keeps coming. The lamps do not flicker. The tablecloth remains clipped in place with heroic little clamps, holding the line for domestic order. Researchers disagree about whether the dining car should be seen chiefly as luxury, social theatre, or practical necessity on long rail journeys. Sitting with your hands around a warm cup, you sense that it's all three. It feeds the body, certainly. It also reassures the mind. It tells you that even while crossing winter darkness, people may still sit upright, pass the salt, discuss weather, and pretend that choosing dessert is not the true centre of human existence. The pie arrives at last. Apple, warm enough to soften the fork, with a crust that flakes gently when touched. You taste cinnamon, butter, and fruit cooked into sweetness. The coffee is dark and slightly bitter, which makes the pie seem even kinder. Around you, the dining car settles into its late-hour mood. Fewer words now, slower hands. The storm continues its wild performance beyond the windows, but inside, supper has become a form of shelter. You place your fork down and listen. The train carries the glowing room onward through the white night. Plates are cleared, cups are refilled, a napkin is folded beside an empty saucer. Warmth gathers in your chest, heavier and softer than hunger, and the rhythm beneath the floor begins to sound less like travel and more like rest. The aisle narrows as the hour deepens, and you begin to notice the people who keep the train feeling effortless. They move with quiet purpose, passing through pools of lamplight, gloved hands steady against the sway. A porter steps into view carrying a folded blanket over one arm and a small stack of towels pressed neatly to his chest. He does not hurry, yet nothing in him seems slow. His shoes find the floor with a practiced certainty. His eyes read the car in a single glance, like a musician reading familiar notes. You watch him pause beside a passenger who has dropped a scarf. He picks it up, shakes away a dusting of crumbs, folds it once, and places it over the back of the seat without waking the owner. The gesture is so small it could disappear, but it holds the night together. Trains are built from steel, steam, signals, wheels, and schedules. Yes, but comfort is built from smaller things, a blanket offered at the right moment, a suitcase lowered without complaint, a soft answer to a nervous question, a door closed before cold air spreads down the aisle. The porter asks whether you need anything for the night. His voice is low, warm, and trained not to disturb the sleeping. You ask for an extra blanket, and he nods as if you have made the most reasonable request in civilization. Around you, passengers settle into the private unease of public rest. Someone tries to fold a coat into a pillow. Someone else removes shoes with the solemn caution of a person hoping the entire carriage will not judge their socks. The porter notices none of it too obviously, which is a kindness in itself. Records show that sleeping car porters in the United States, many of them black men employed under demanding conditions, became central figures in passenger rail service. They carried luggage, prepared berths, shined shoes, answered bells, calmed travellers, managed bedding, and performed endless duties. Required skill, memory, patience, and dignity. Their work helped define the experience of rail travel for generations. Yet it was often poorly paid, tightly supervised, and dependent on tips. The gentle order you feel tonight rests on labour that is both visible and strangely hidden. He returns with the blanket. It smells faintly of clean wool, cedar storage, and the dry heat of the train, when he places it into your hands, it has weight, not just physical weight, but the reassuring weight of care. You unfold it over your lap and feel the warmth gather almost at once. Across the aisle, the child stirs, the porter bends slightly, speaks to the mother, and produces a cup with a lid, likely warm milk or cocoa, held as carefully as a lantern. The child accepts it without ceremony, because children, like monarchs, often receive service as though the universe has finally remembered its job. A curious footnote: some porters became legendary for remembering passenger names, preferences, destinations, and even small habits after only a brief encounter. A regular traveller might step aboard and be greeted as if entering a private club, not because the system was easy, but because the workers made hard things appear graceful. That kind of memory feels almost magical. In truth, it is attention sharpened by necessity. The porter knows who needs help with a bag, who wants quiet, who fears missing a stop, and who will ask 3 times whether the train's on schedule, even though the answer will not improve with repetition. The conductor passes the porter at the end of the car. They exchange a glance, brief and practical. No drama, no speech, just a transfer of knowledge. A passenger in the rear wants to know about connections. A window latch may be loose, a berth needs preparing. The dining car has sent word that coffee can be brought forward later. The train becomes a chain of such messages, human links between metal rooms. You begin to understand that the journey is not simply operated, it is tended. The porter kneels to secure a bag under a seat. His polished shoe slides slightly as the train leans, but he catches the motion without effort. His hand presses the luggage strap flat. The buckle clicks in the overhead rack. He shifts a suitcase so it will not rattle against the metal brace. The sound stops. It is only a rattle, barely important. Yet without it the carriage becomes softer. This is how peace is made on a train, one minor irritation at a time. Scholars continue to argue over how to balance the romance of classic rail service with the unequal labour that supported it. Some focus on the dignity, organising power, and community influence of porters, especially through their role in labour history. Others emphasise the exhausting expectations placed on them by companies and passengers alike. Both views sit in the same carriage tonight. You feel the comfort, and you also sense the cost. The blanket on your knees is warm. The hands that brought it have carried many more burdens than wool. At the far end of the car, a bell button sounds, faint and polite. The porter turns immediately. He walks away through the rocking aisle, shoulders level, an expression composed. The train sways into a curve. Snow flashes at the windows. Lamps tremble above him. He reaches the call, bends to listen, nods, and begins another task. No announcement follows. No one applauds. The night simply becomes easier for someone. You rest your head against the seat and follow his movement only by sound now. A cupboard opens, fabric shifts, a latch closes, footsteps pass, pause, and pass again. In the hush between wheel beats, the quiet duties continue. They are not grand enough for postcards. Perhaps, but they are the hidden stitching of the journey. The porter moves like a keeper of warmth in a narrow world of steel and snow, making sure that strangers may sleep while the blizzard spends its fury beyond the glass. The windows begin to change as the storm thickens around the train. At first, the glass only fogs where warm breath meets the cold, then pale crystals gather along the corners. Thin as lace and sharp as tiny feathers, snow strikes, melts, freezes, and blurs the outside into a shifting wall of white. You lift one hand and touch the lower edge of the pane. The cold reaches your fingertips at once, clean and startling, like touching a sealed bottle pulled from deep ice. Beyond the glass, the world has almost vanished. The dark fields and fence lines no longer pass in clear shapes. They appear only as shadows, sudden and uncertain, then are swallowed again. A tree trunk flashes by like a black brushstroke. A telegraph pole leans into view, then disappears behind blowing snow. The train seems to be moving through a cloud laid upon the earth. You know the rails are there beneath you, and yet your eyes cannot prove it. That is where trust begins to feel very old. The carriage lamps reflect in the window, making a second train float beside yours. In that ghostly reflection, you see faces turned inward, collars raised, hands wrapped around cups, eyes drifting between sleep and thought. Outside, the blizzard presses close with all its silent ambition. Inside, all the reflected lamps hover over the whiteout like small moons. The glass becomes both barrier and mirror, protecting you from winter while showing you how fragile protection can look. Railway operating rules of the period made winter travel a careful discipline, with crews depending on signals, track maintenance, dispatch orders, and constant communication to move trains safely through snow. That plain fact has a comforting gravity tonight. Somewhere ahead, workers know the route. Somewhere along the line, switches have been cleared, lamps have been checked, and men in heavy coats have stamped their feet beside tracks that disappear as soon as they are uncovered. The train is not conquering the storm by romance alone. Romance is lovely, upstalken naturally, but it does not clear a switch in freezing wind. People do. The whistle sounds, long and low, and the third note rolls out into the white distance. It returns faintly from something unseen, perhaps a hillside, perhaps a stand of pines, perhaps only the dense body of the storm. You feel it in your chest more than you hear it. The sound makes the night wider. It says there is a world beyond the window, even if the window has forgotten how to show it. A curious little habit among winter passengers was the reading of frost patterns, as if they were weather omens or private drawings. People saw ferns, mountains, feathers, cities, even animals in the frozen lace along the glass. One could imagine a very serious aunt insisting that a shape near the corner clearly predicted good luck, while everyone else nodded because disagreeing with an aunt in a moving train during a blizzard is not wise policy. You look closely and find your own picture there. A white forest growing sideways, a river made of veins, a tiny map to nowhere. The train pushes into deeper country. The rocking grows more deliberate, not rough, but heavier, as if the wheels are feeling the packed snow around the rails. The sound changes too. The usual bright clatter becomes muffled under the storm, padded by drifts and distance. You hear the low growl of motion through metal, the rush of wind at the seams, the occasional snap of ice shaken loose from some hidden edge. The carriage remains warm, but the night outside has entered the imagination of every passenger. A man near the window uses his thumb to clear a round patch in the fogged glass. He bends close, peers out, sees nothing, and sits back with a resigned shrug. The gesture draws a faint smile from the woman opposite him. There is something funny about needing proof of a blizzard while sitting inside one. Human beings are wonderfully stubborn that way. We look out at pure whiteness and think, yes, but what is really happening? For a moment, the snow thins. The window clears enough to reveal a dark wall of evergreens rising beside the track. Their branches sag under heavy white loads. The train passes so close that you feel you could reach out and brush the snow from them. Though of course you cannot, and also you prefer keeping your arm attached and warm. Then the trees pull away. Open ground returns, pale and blurred. The storm closes again. Historians still puzzle over why accounts of winter rail journeys often remember danger and comfort together. Not as opposites, but as companions. Perhaps the threat outside makes the warmth inside more vivid. Perhaps moving through harsh weather gives rest a sense of earned privilege. Perhaps the rhythm of the train turns fear into something shaped and bearable. You do not need to settle the matter. You feel the answer in the contrast between your warm blanket and the frozen window under your hand. The glass grows milkier with ice. Little ridges thicken at the corners, and the reflected lamps become softer, almost dreamlike. You can no longer tell whether the train is passing fields, woods, or frozen water. The outside has become a great pale curtain drawn tightly around the journey. The only certainty is motion. You're still moving. The floor hums, the wheels answer the rails, the car sways with careful strength. A small flurry of snow slips through some unseen crown near the vestibule and melts almost instantly on the dark floor. It is barely anything, a few flakes only, but passengers glance toward it with amusement, as though winter has sent in a scout. The porter closes a door more firmly. Warmth returns to its proper authority. The flakes vanish. You breathe slowly and watch the window until watching becomes almost the same as dreaming. The blizzard keeps writing and erasing itself on the glass. The train keeps moving through its white silence. Beyond the pane, winter has no edges. Inside, your world narrows to lamplight, wool, breath, steel, and the deep reassurance of being carried onward when the night outside has disappeared. The sleeping berth waits like a small secret, built into the wall. At first it appears impossible that a person could rest properly in such a narrow space, but the train has its own quiet logic. Hinges, straps, curtains, panels, hooks, and folded bedding all know what they are meant to become. A porter draws near with sheets balanced over one arm, and the plain seats begin their nightly transformation into something softer, stranger, and more private. You watch the process with the pleasure of seeing a magician who refuses to call attention to the trick. The porter releases a latch, lowers a panel, and draws out the bedding in a practice sequence. A mattress pad is smoothed into place, a clean sheet unfurls with a faint snap. A pillow appears from somewhere you would never have found on your own, which is exactly why some travellers should never be left alone with railway furniture. A blanket is tucked, pulled, squared, and a patted flat. Within minutes, the public seat has become a sleeping space, not large, not grand, but complete. By the 1950s, many American overnight trains offered a range of sleeping accommodations, from open section berths with curtains to private roomettes and bedrooms, depending on the train, fare, and route. The open berth carried a special mixture of modest comfort and public exposure. You could sleep, but not vanish. You could draw the curtain, but not silence the footsteps in the aisle. You could have privacy, but only the kind made from the fabric, trust, and the shared manners of strangers. You step aside while the porter checks the straps and curtain rings. His hands move quickly over the small hardware. The curtain slides along its rail with a soft rasp, heavy enough to block the light, light enough to sway when the train bends. He shows you the net pocket for glasses or a watch, the tiny reading lamp near the pillow, the hook for your coat, and the narrow ledge where you may place a book you will almost command and pretend to read before surrendering to sleep. The train rocks gently through it all, as if testing whether the bed is worthy. The air inside the berth is warmer than the aisle. You can smell fresh linen, wool blanket, metal fittings, and the faint varnish of old wood. There is also a whisper of coal smoke carried on coats and vents, not unpleasant, just enough to remind you that this cosy nest is being pulled through winter by serious machinery. You sit on the edge of the berth and remove your shoes carefully, because nothing makes a narrow sleeping space feel more dramatic than trying to manage footwear while the floor shifts beneath you. A peculiar detail from sleeper travel is that some passengers place their shoes outside the curtain at night so attendants could polish them by morning. It sounds luxurious until you imagine the risk of waking to someone else's shoes, or worse, to one shoe of your own and one shoe belonging to a businessman with very firm opinions. Still, the ritual carried its own charm. Shoes lined up in a dim aisle suggested faith in order, in service, and in the idea that the morning version of yourself deserved better leather than the evening version. You slide your shoes under the berth instead, let the morning version of yourself manage expectations, then you fold your coat, loosen your collar, and feel the small privacy of the curtain waiting beside you. The berth is not silent, it has a voice. The wall hums, the lamp gives a mild buzz, the window breathes cold through the edges, the wheels speak below in repeating phrases, yet these sounds are not interruptions, they are the boundaries of the little room. The way crickets define summer or rain defines a roof. Specialists differ on whether sleeping cars should be understood mainly as technological convenience, social performance, or emotional theatre. There is engineering here, certainly. In the clever folding of space and the smooth management of weight and motion, there is social performance too, in the rules of quiet voices, drawn curtains, and polite invisibility. But lying down in a moving train creates something more delicate. Oh, you are horizontal while the country passes beneath you. You are at rest while the world continues. That is not merely transportation, that is a gentle contradiction. You pull the curtain halfway, then pause to look out through the frosted window. The glass shows only a pale blur and the dim reflection of the berth behind you. A strap sways beside the wall. The blanket edge rises and falls with the motion of the train. The tiny lamp forms a circle of amber on the pillow. Everything has been reduced to essentials. Heat, cloth, breath, motion, night. Around you, other berths are being made. You hear curtains drawn, buckles fastened, quiet thanks offered, bag shifted, a stifled laugh from someone discovering how little room dignity requires. A man bumps his head lightly and mutters a very restrained comment about modern design. Someone else whispers goodnight in a voice already half asleep. The carriage, once a public sitting room, becomes a row of hidden nests. You climb in carefully. The mattress gives beneath you with a firm and narrow welcome. The blanket settles across your legs. You turn onto your side, adjusting until the rocking becomes comfortable. The curtain now closes fully, and the world shrinks to a fabric wall. A cold window, a small lamp, and the steady sway of the rails. You are enclosed, but not trapped. The motion tells you the train is alive around you. The muffled footsteps tell you you are not alone. The storm outside makes the berth feel warmer, as if winter itself has tucked the blanket more tightly. You reach for the lamp and leave it glowing a little longer. The light softens the folds of the curtain. The shadows move gently with each curve. Your thoughts slow, not disappearing, only settling like snow on a roof. The berth creaks once, then grows still beneath the rhythm. You breathe in linen and wool, listen to the wheels turning below, and let the narrow bed carry you through the dark with the tender confidence of an old machine built for sleepers. In the dim hush, the journey begins to feel larger than the narrow bed, larger even than the train itself. You lie with the rhythm beneath your shoulder blades, and your mind drifts through the long habit of rail travel in America. That whole vanished choreography of tickets, platforms, luggage labels, dining bells, polished shoes, and strangers reading newspapers under soft lamps. The storm outside remains hidden behind glass and frost, yet the sound of the wheels opens a corridor through time. You are moving through 1958, but also through the memory of earlier journeys that made this one possible. You imagine stations on the summer mornings, crowded with hats and parcels. You imagine holiday platforms, mothers waving handkerchiefs, fathers pretending not to fuss, children pressing coins into vending machines and believing every journey must end in wonder. You imagine soldiers returning, students departing, salesmen unfolding maps, honeymooners speaking in whispers, and elderly travellers sitting upright with the grave dignity of people who have never missed a train and do not intend to start now. The passenger train gathers all of them into its long memory. It carries not only bodies, but habits. Company timetables from this era show how carefully passenger railways sold both speed and comfort, listing departures, arrivals, connections, meal service, sleeping space. and named trains as though each route had its own personality. A timetable was not just a schedule. It was a promise printed in small type. It told you that the world could be organised by columns of minutes. Even if the weather had other opinions, there is a quaint boldness in that. Snow may bury roads, wind may shake the glass, but somewhere a timetable still insists that dinner is served, lights are dimmed, and Lake Placid waits at the end of the lines. The berth creaks softly as the train sways. You picture older coaches with clerestory roofs, varnished wood, brass fittings, wicker seats, heavy curtains, and windows opened for air before sealed comfort became the modern dream. You picture newer streamlined cars with rounded ends, smooth sides, and names meant to sound swift, clean, and glamorous. In 1958, both worlds still seem to overlap, the old rituals remain, but the future is already pressing at the door, wearing a lighter suit and talking about highways, airports, and convenience with great confidence. One offbeat detail from the passenger rail world is that some trains earned affectionate nicknames from travellers that had little to do with official company pride. A train might be known for its breakfast, its rough ride, its punctuality, its late arrival, or the way its heating seemed to choose favourites. Regular passengers could speak of these traits as if describing temperamental relatives. This one sleeps cold, that one has better pie. The night train always rattles near the river. Such comments sound ordinary, but they preserve the emotional map of travel better than any glossy advertisement. You listen to the wheels and sense that every sound belongs to a fading routine. The conductor's punch, the steward's call, the porter sliding a curtain along its rail, the dining car spoon touching china, the whistle opening across fields. Each sound has a job, yet together they form a ceremony. Nobody aboard calls it ceremonial. Of course, people rarely recognise an era while living inside it. They complain about drafts, delayed baggage, weak coffee, and the seatmate who breathes like a tired accordion. Still, when the routine fades, even the complaints begin to glow. Experts remain divided over when the classic age of American passenger rail truly ended. Some point to the rise of private automobiles after the Second World War. Some look to the growth of commercial air travel. Others choose later corporate and government changes that reshape the entire passenger network. But lying here in this moving room, you feel that decline is not a single date. It is a series of small shifts. Fewer people on the platform, fewer named trains in the timetable. A dining car removed, a station waiting room closed, a child who learns the sound of a highway before the sound of a whistle. Yet this evening does not feel like an ending. It feels alive, complete, beautifully stubborn. The train continues to offer its old bargain. Bring your suitcase to Bunchi. Trust the rails. Let others tend the route while you read, eat, sleep, and look out at a passing world. That bargain has a deep human sweetness. You can be alone without being abandoned. You can be among strangers without needing conversation. You can travel while wrapped in blankets, which frankly is a high point of civilization and should not be dismissed lightly. The old routines shape the body. You learn how to walk through a swaying aisle, how to brace a hand against a seat back, how to lower your voice when curtains are drawn, how to read by a small lamp while the page trembles. You learn that a train creates its own weather inside, part warmth and part patience, part shared fatigue. You learn that distance feels different when measured in wheel beats rather than miles. The land does not vanish in a flash. It passes slowly enough to become a companion. The carriage settles into deeper quiet. Somewhere, a newspaper slips from a sleeping hand. Somewhere, a watch ticks in a vest pocket. The train moves through the blizzard with the confidence of an old custom not ready to be forgotten. You rest within that custom, held by wool, metal, heat, and rhythm. The golden routine may be fading beyond this night, but here it still shines softly, lamp by lamp, berth by berth, mile by mile, carrying you through winter as though the whole century has paused to breathe. A station appears first as a glow, not a building. Through the storm, you see a blurred circle of light trembling in the snow, then another, then the dark outline of a roof hunched under white weight. The train slows, and the rhythm beneath you changes from steady rolling to careful breathing. Wheels scrape softly, brakes sigh through the length of the cars, the berth rocks once, settles, and you lift your head, listening as the night outside gathers around a small platform in the middle of winter. The station slides into view beside the window, close enough to feel almost unreal. A wooden sign stands under a cap of snow, its letters half hidden by ice. Lamps hang from the eaves, and their light turns the falling flakes into gold for one brief moment before the storm swallows them again. A few bundled figures wait on the platform, shoulders curved, hats low, scarves drawn high. They do not look like travellers, so much as shapes carved from the weather. One man stamps his boots, a woman holds a parcel under her coat, a boy stands beside a trunk, trying very hard to look older than the cold allows. The train stops with a final soft jolt. For a few seconds, everything is sound. Steam breathes along the platform. A door opens with a metallic clank. Snow hisses under footsteps. Someone calls out, but the wind tears the words into pieces before they reach you. A lantern moves along the side of the train, swinging at a knee height, its light passing over wheels, steps, and frozen handrails. The station is small, but it becomes the centre of the world while the train rests beside it. Many rural stations in the middle of the 20th century served more than passengers. They handled mail, newspapers, express parcels, milk cans, baggage, freight notices, and local messages, making them essential points of contact between small communities and the wider country. That plain fact gives the platform a deeper meaning. This is not merely a place where people board and leave. It is a winter doorway through which news, goods, hopes, and interruptions pass. Even in the storm, the station keeps its duty. You watch as the porter steps down and helps the woman with the parcel climb aboard. The parcel is wrapped in brown paper and tied with string. She carries it carefully, as if it contains a cake, a hat, or something far more powerful, such as a family obligation. The boy with the trunk says goodbye to someone hidden beyond the lamplight. He raises one hand and then lowers it quickly, embarrassed by tenderness. The trunk is lifted into the baggage car. The boy follows the conductor up the step, bringing with him a gust of cold air and the smell of snow on wool. A newspaper bundle lands on the platform with a flat thump. Another bundle is carried toward the station door. A mail sack is exchanged, one taken off, one put on. The movements are quick, practiced, and unsentimental. No one lingers longer than necessary. The storm is too strong for dramatic farewells, which may be winter's little mercy. It forces the heart to be efficient. Say goodbye, shut the door, keep warm. A curious aside from station life is that many small depots had unofficial animal residents. Cats who guarded freight rooms from mice, dogs who escorted station agents, and the occasional bold creature that seemed to know the train schedule better than half the passengers. Travellers remembered them with surprising fondness. A station cat asleep near a stove could become part of a route's identity. A furry official with no salary, no ticket punch, and very strong opinions about being moved from a warm chair. The station agent appears under the lamp, coat buttoned tight, cap dusted white. He carries a clipboard against his chest and looks up the line, then down it, as if measuring the storm by habit. His office window glows behind him. Inside, you can see a stove, a desk, a wall clock, and a row of papers pinned with care. That little room seems impossibly cosy from your berth. A square of human order set against miles of frozen dark. You imagine the smell inside: coal heat, ink, damp wool, old wood, wool, old, and coffee left too long on the stove but still gratefully accepted. There is a debate among social historians about whether small stations should be remembered mainly as symbols of connection or as reminders of isolation. The answer seems to shift with the weather. In fine daylight, the station may look like a link to anywhere. In a blizzard, it also shows how far apart people can be, how precious each arrival becomes, how much faith must be placed in a timetable, a lantern, and a track vanishing into snow. You hear the conductor call a warning. Doors close one by one. The sound travels down the train in firm metal answers. The new passengers move through the aisle, bringing cold cheeks, stiff fingers, and the awkward hush of people entering a room where others are already half asleep. Someone helps the boy find his seat. The woman with the parcel sits carefully and keeps it on her lap. A man near the window shifts his knees to make space and receives a nod of thanks. Outside, the station begins to drift backward, although you know it is the train that moves. The platform lamps slide past your window one by one. The agent stands beneath the eaves, lantern at his side, shrinking into snowlight. The sign fades, the roof fades. The little office window remains longest. A warm square in the storm, then it too is gone. The rails take back their rhythm. The wheels speak more clearly as speed returns. You settle down again, but the station stays in your mind, not as a stop on a map, but as a brief human island, bright and stubborn in the white dark, somewhere behind you. Boots are being set near a stove, newspapers are being sorted, and snow is already filling the footprints on the platform. Ahead, more small lamps wait in the storm, each one ready to appear, pause, and vanish. The grade begins so gently that your body notices before your eyes do. The floor seems to lean into effort. The wheels keep their rhythm, but the sound grows firmer, as if each turn has found a little more weight to carry. The train is climbing now, rising into the mountain country while the blizzard thickens around the cars and the forest gathers closer to the rails. You feel it in your shoulders, in the faint pressure against the berth wall, in the way loose objects settle toward one side with sleepy obedience. The window shows almost nothing at first, only pale motion and the dim reflection of your lamp. Then the storm shifts, and the land appears in fragments. A bank of snow rises beside the track. Beyond it, dark pines stand crowded together, their branches sagging under white loads. The trees seem less like scenery than witnesses, tall and silent, watching the train pass with the ancient patience of things that do not care about timetables. The mountains do not hurry. They allow the train to climb because steel, fire, and human planning have made a narrow bargain with stone. The engine works harder ahead. You cannot see it from where you rest, but you hear its labour travel back through the cars. A deeper pull, a stronger vibration, a breath that lengthens under strain. The train is no longer gliding across open country. It is threading upward through ridges, cuts, curves, and snow-packed shoulders of earth. The rails bend around dark slopes and cross places where the ground falls away into hollows filled with winter shadow. The carriage sways more slowly now, not uncertainly, but with the thoughtful caution of something carrying precious weight through difficult weather. Historical records make clear that railroads helped open the Adirondack region to visitors, goods, mail, and resort travel from the late 19th century onward, transforming remote lakes and mountain towns into destinations for summer guests, winter sports lovers, and city dwellers hungry for clean air. Lake Placid did not become a dream on its own. It was made reachable by tracks, stations, coaches, baggage cars, and the stubborn confidence of people who believed leisure itself could be scheduled. Even mountain sense. It seems eventually had to meet the railway clerk. A curve presses you gently against the berth. The wheels complain softly, metal singing against metal. Outside, the pines sweep close to the glass, then open suddenly to reveal a frozen stream below. It is not wide, but it shines in the little light the storm allows. Snow has rounded the stones along its banks. Thin black water shows in the centre, still moving under ice, still finding its path while everything around it sleeps. The train crosses above it on a small bridge, and the sound changes to a hollow rolling thunder. For 3 breaths, the world below seems very far away. An odd little note from mountain rail travel is that crews sometimes knew which stretches of line would make passengers wake, not because of danger, but because of sound. A bridge with a booming floor, a curve that made dishes tremble, a steep grade where the engine spoke more loudly. These became unofficial landmarks. A regular traveller might not look outside at all and still know roughly where the train was. It is a fine skill. Being able to navigate by rattles, modern life offers fewer chances to impress anyone with that talent, which is probably a loss to civilization. You listen now as if the train is describing the mountains through sound alone. The soft grind on a climb, the brief easing on a flatter stretch, the muffled hush when snowbanks close in, the sharper clatter when the track clears a cutting between rock walls. Each change becomes part of the ascent. The body understands the landscape without needing a view. You're not merely passing through the mountains, you're feeling their shape through the frame of the car. The air seems colder near the glass, though the berth remains warm. You pull the blanket higher and breathe in the mingled scents of wool, heated metal, and faint smoke. Oh, somewhere ahead. Coal or fuel burns, valves answer, pistons drive, and the whole long train follows. This is not effortless comfort. It is comfort produced by effort, which may be why it feels so satisfying. There is labour in the walls, there is calculation beneath the floor, there is a crew awake while you drift. The mountains ask for respect, and the train pays it in pressure, heat, and attention. Interpretations still diverge over whether rail access protected or weakened mountain communities and landscapes. Some historians emphasise connection, jobs, medical access, and the growth of tourism. Others point to heavier logging, resort development, land pressure, and the arrival of outside expectations in quiet places. From your small berth, the debate feels present but softened. The train is both visitor and servant, both intruder and lifeline, its lamps moving through a country that was never empty, never simple, never merely scenic. The forest closes in again. Snow swirls between the trunks like breath. You imagine deer standing motionless beyond sight, hearing the train pass and waiting for the ground to become quiet again. You imagine cabins buried under drifts, smoke lifting from chimneys, frozen lakes hidden under the storm, and mountain roads already lost beneath white folds. The train follows its iron path with grave concentration. It does not wander. It does not choose the easy way. It climbs the way railways climb. By accepting the exact line laid before them, a distant signal lamp appears suddenly through the white, green and small and steady. It glows for only a moment, then slips past the window and vanishes behind the berth curtain's edge. That single light feels almost tender. A bright permission in the storm. Proceed. Continue. Keep faith with the track. The wheels answer at once, turning onward into the grade. You lie still as the ascent carries you higher. The storm has made the mountains invisible, yet you feel their presence pressing around the train, vast, dark, and calm beneath the snow. The carriage rocks with deeper patience, the engine works into the night, the forest stands close, then falls away, then returns, and you, warm in your narrow sleeping place, rise through winter without effort, lifted by steel through a sleeping world of pine, stone, ice, and hidden water. The sleeping car grows quieter, yet not entirely silent. Rest on a train is full of tiny human sounds, and tonight they drift around you like snowflakes made of paper and breath. A page turns behind a curtain, a pencil scratches across a postcard, a deck of cards makes a soft sliding sound against a small table somewhere nearby. Two voices drop into the careful murmur people use when they believe they're being discreet, which of course makes every syllable feel far more interesting than it probably deserves. You pull the curtain open a hand's width and look into the dim aisle. The lamps have been lowered, and the carriage now seems longer than it did. A tunnel of amber pools and shadowed curtains. At the far end, the lounge space holds a few wakeful passengers who have not yet surrendered to the hour. They sit around a narrow table, shoulders bent inward, playing cards while the train climbs through the storm. Their faces brighten and fade as the lamp swings gently above them. No one laughs loudly. The game belongs to the night, and the night has rules. A woman in a dark sweater writes a letter on her lap, using a book as a desk. Her handwriting moves carefully, though the train makes the lines tremble. She pauses often, not because she lacks words, but because some words resist being placed on paper. Her envelope rests beside her, already addressed. Perhaps she is writing to a sister, a grown child, a husband at home, or someone she will not name aloud. You cannot know. The mystery is part of the softness. A train is full of stories that pass close enough to feel, never close enough to claim. By 1958, letters and postcards remained everyday tools of travel, since most people could not instantly send photographs, messages, or little complaints about the coffee to everyone they knew. A postcard from a resort town or station stop could announce arrival, weather, affection, duty, or bragging, depending on the sender's character. It was a simple object, but it carried presence, a few lines, a stamp, a postmark, and suddenly a journey reached someone far away. The card players speak in whispers. You catch fragments, not enough to understand, just enough to imagine. A queen needed, a poor hand, a cousin in Albany, a suitcase that nearly went to Buffalo, a joke about the storm having more enthusiasm than manners. The card snaps softly. Coins or matchsticks mark a harmless wager. One man leans back, satisfied with himself in the mysterious way of someone holding two good cards and one very foolish hope. The woman across from him studies her hand with severe calm. She is not impressed by hope. Hope, in card games, is often just arithmetic wearing the perfume. One small oddity of train travel is that passengers sometimes formed brief social worlds that lasted only for the length of a route. They shared candy, newspapers, gossip, playing cards, travel advice, and once in a while a confession that might never have been spoken in a regular parlour. The moving train made intimacy temporary, which made it safer. By morning, everyone could step onto a platform and return to being strangers with luggage. There is comfort in that. Not every shared truth asks to become a lifelong obligation. A young man sits alone near the vestibule, reading a newspaper folded into a narrow strip. He reads the same column twice, then lowers it and stares toward the sealed door. Perhaps the print swims in the rocking light. Perhaps the news feels too large for the little carriage. In 1958, newspapers carried the anxieties of a changing world, Cold War tension, new technology, politics, sports, and advertisements promising modern convenience in cheerful fonts. Yet here, surrounded by snow, even the loudest headlines soften. The train has a way of reducing the century to paper, lamp glow, and the warmth of your own hands. Academic opinion still wanders over whether train conversations are best treated as evidence of public life, private emotion, or performance shaped by travel itself. People speak differently when they are in motion. They are freed from ordinary rooms, yet held by shared space. They may become more polite, more guarded, more open, or more theatrical. You sense all of it in the murmurs beyond your berth. The train is a confessional with wheels, but also a stage with curtains. and everyone is both audience and actor, whether they asked for the role or not. The woman writing the letter lifts her pencil and listens as the whistle sounds. The note stretches across the mountains, long and lonely. She smiles faintly, then returns to the page. You imagine the words growing more tender after that sound. It is difficult to remain entirely practical when a train whistle enters a sentence. Even a grocery list might become emotional under such influence. Bread, milk, tell them I arrived safely, snow everywhere, wish you could see it. A boy newly aboard sits with a postcard of Lake Placid already in his hand, though he has not reached it yet. On the front, perhaps, there is a lake under blue winter sky, mountains standing clean and handsome, everything arranged as if snow never turns grey near the station steps. He studies it seriously, then turns it over and writes only a few words. The pencil tip breaks. He sighs as though betrayed by industry itself. A porter passing by offers a sharpened pencil from his pocket. The boy accepts it with solemn gratitude. Around the lounge table, the card game ends without ceremony. A winner is declared in a whisper. A loser claims the deck was cold, which is a classic defence and deserves no sympathy. Chairs shift, cards are gathered. One passenger folds the deck into its box and taps it twice on the table, as if sealing the evening. The little society dissolves. People stand, stretch carefully, and move back toward their berths, carrying with them the faint warmth of company. You close the curtain again, leaving only a narrow line of light at the edge. The paper sounds continue for a while. A final sentence is written. An envelope is sealed. A newspaper folds under a sleepy hand. The train keeps rocking through the snowbound mountains, carrying messages not yet mailed, stories not fully told, and murmurs that will vanish with the morning. In your small berth, you listen as human voices fade into the larger rhythm of the wheels, and the night becomes tender with all the things people almost say. Behind the dining car door, the train has a heartbeat made of heat, steam, and careful hands. You stand near the narrow passage where the warmer smells gather first, and for a moment the rocking floor seems less like motion and more like a rhythm the kitchen has learned to obey. Coffee breathes from metal urns. Butter softens near a covered dish. A pan gives a low hiss. The air is warmer here, almost damp, carrying the scent of toast, soup stock, dish soap, hot metal, and a little smoke from somewhere deep in the working life of the train. The kitchen itself is small, bright, and intensely awake. Every shelf has a purpose. Every drawer closes with a catch. Every pot seems to be placed where a hand can reach it without looking. The cook works in a space that would make a modern home kitchen complain and demand a renovation. Yet here he turns, lifts, pours, and plates while the train bends through a blizzard. His apron is marked with honest splashes. His sleeves are rolled. His face shines lightly in the heat. He is not performing elegance. He is producing it. In many mid-century dining cars, meals were prepared in compact galley kitchens fitted with stoves, ovens, ice boxes or early refrigeration, storage lockers, and equipment secured for motion. That simple historical fact changes the way you see every plate that leaves the door. A dinner on a train is not only food, it is a small engineering victory. Soup must not leap, coffee must not escape, plates must travel from hot range to table, while the floor argues with gravity. Civilization, you realise, depends heavily on well-timed elbows. The steward stands near the serviced space, reading the room beyond the door through sound. He hears a chair shift, a cup set down, a passenger asking for more coffee, another choosing dessert too slowly for the peace of mankind. He gives instruction in a low voice. 2 plates ready. 1 more tea. Hold the pie until the table is cleared. His tone stays calm, but his eyes move constantly. The storm may be outside, yet the schedule lives in here too. Food must arrive warm. Dishes must return. The car must be reset before the next stop, the next seating, the next request. Snowlight presses against the small kitchen window, turning it pale as milk. When the train rounds a curve, The light slides across hanging utensils and makes them gleam for a passing second. Then steam clouds the glass again. You see only whiteness beyond it. A soft blank world pressing against a room full of knives, ladles, pans, towels, cups, and human focus. The contrast feels dreamlike. Outside is winter without detail. Inside is detail without rest. A curious kitchen trick from railway service was the use of snug racks. Deep lips on counters, heavy dishes, and practiced placement to keep objects from wandering during motion. Even so, seasoned cooks developed a sixth sense for when a curve might send a spoon toward rebellion. You imagine a potato rolling loose and being stopped with the speed of a man who has battled vegetables across 3 states. It is not written in heroic verse, perhaps, but it should be respected. A young assistant dries plates with swift motions, stacking them where they cannot slide. He has a towel over one shoulder, and the serious expression of someone trusted with hot china in a moving room. A pot lid rattles. He catches it with 2 fingers and settles it back into place. The cook glances once, approves without saying so, and returns to the stove. Their teamwork is not sentimental. It is practical, wordless, and exact. In such a tight space, every unnecessary movement becomes an opinion no one asked for. The heat builds, your face warms, your hands loosen, and the storm outside feels less real for a moment. Then the train whistle sounds, long and muffled, and the kitchen pauses only in feeling, not in motion. The cook stirs, the steward counts plates, the assistant wipes a spill before it spreads. The wheels below continue their deep repeating phrase. Here, work does not stop for atmosphere, it only absorbs it. Food historians still differ over whether railway dining should be remembered as fine cuisine, industrial catering, or a travelling form of domestic reassurance. The kitchen gives no tidy answer. It is too hot, too cramped, too practical for pure romance. Yet it produces something that feels tender, a bowl placed before a cold traveller, a slice of pie under a lamp, a cup refilled without fuss. These are not grand gestures, but they persuade people that the night is manageable. The steward opens the door, and a brief wash of dining car sound enters the kitchen quiet talk. A fork touching china, the soft clink of glass. The storm tapping beyond the windows. He passes through with a tray, balanced on one hand. The tray tilts slightly as the car sways, then rights itself. His other hand steadies the doorframe. Not a drop spills. You may consider this ordinary until you imagine trying the same thing with soup in your own hallway, while someone gently moves the house from side to side. Suddenly, the man seems like a saint with better posture. Orders thin as the hour grows late. The cook lowers a flame. Coffee remains ready. A last plate is wiped clean at the rim. The assistant stacks saucers and checks the latch on a cupboard. The kitchen does not sleep, not fully. It settles into watchfulness. There may be another passenger with cold hands, another request for tea, another nervous soul who needs toast because weather has made the stomach philosophical. You step back from the doorway and let the warmth remain behind you like a hidden furnace at the centre of the train. The blizzard keeps whitening the glass. The rails keep climbing through the dark. In that compact kitchen, heat and order continue to bloom, plate by plate, cup by cup, while the long train carries its small, bright household through snow. The signal appears like a small star trapped in the storm. For a moment, you see nothing beyond the window but the pale rush of snow. Then a coloured lamp glows through the whiteness, steady and deliberate, set beside the track on its iron post. It passes the train in a brief blur, and the light is gone, but its message remains. In weather like this, a signal is not decoration, it is permission, warning, discipline, and trust, all compressed into one small flame of order. Up ahead, the engine crew reads the night through signs you can barely imagine from your warm berth. The engineer sits forward, eyes fixed beyond the glass, watching for lamps, posts, boards, switches, crossings, and any change in the pale confusion ahead. The fireman watches too, sharing the burden of seeing. Snow lashes the front windows, ice gathers round metal edges. The headlight pushes a tunnel into the blizzard, but the tunnel is short, closing almost as soon as it opens. The train does not race through this blindness. It proceeds with the grave patience of men who know that confidence is useful only when tied firmly to caution. Railroad rulebooks of the period required crews to obey trackside signals, speed restrictions, train orders, and dispatcher instructions, especially on the single track lines where timing and authority determined safe movement. That fact may sound like the dry furniture of the railway law, but tonight it feels close to sacred. Each signal tells the crew what the invisible railway ahead has already decided. Proceed. Slow. Prepare to stop. Wait. The lamps speak a language of safety, and the crew listens with their whole attention. You feel a slight change in speed. The wheels soften their tempo. The carriage leans into a curve, and the wind presses snow hard against the glass. Somewhere outside, buried beyond sight, a switch may be packed with ice. A crossing may lie under drifting snow. A maintenance crew may have passed not long ago with shovels, lanterns, and numb fingers, clearing what the storm is already trying to reclaim. The train moves because many unseen people have made the path possible. A curious footnote from winter railroading is that crews sometimes learn to recognize signals by their position, shape, and glow even when snow blurred the colour. A lamp high on one side, a faint shape against the trees, a post where memory expected it. All could help confirm what the eye struggled to separate from the storm. It sounds almost like guesswork, but it is not. It is experience layered over training, the kind of knowledge that grows slowly through long nights, bad weather, and repeated responsibility, very glamorous, naturally, in the way frozen eyebrows and a stiff collar are glamorous. The whistle sounds again, shorter this time. As the train nears a crossing hidden in the whiteout, you picture a road there, though you cannot see it. Perhaps it is only a narrow lane between black trees. Perhaps a farm truck crossed it earlier, leaving ruts now filled with snow. The whistle rolls across it anyway, sending warning into the darkness. The crossing bell, if there is one, may be clanging under a hood of snow. The train announces itself not because anyone is likely to be standing there at this hour, but because rules do not depend on mood. That is one of their better qualities. Inside the cars, passengers sleep through the labour of attention. Blankets rise and fall, curtains sway, a pencil rests beside an unfinished postcard, cups sit in racks. The quiet feels effortless, but only because effort has moved elsewhere. You listen to the brakes whisper faintly, then release. The train answers with a gentle pull. The engineers read something beyond your view. A lamp, a signal arm, a marker, a remembered point in the line. The journey continues through decisions made in seconds and prepared by years. Rail historians still wrestle with whether the greatest safety revolution in the passenger service came from better machines, stricter rules, improved communication, or the hard-earned judgment of crews. The answer refuses to sit neatly in one box. Machines mattered, rules mattered, communication mattered. Yet a rule still needed a human eye. A pedal still needed a human mind. A brake still needed a hand that knew when pressure should be applied gently, not suddenly, especially with sleeping passengers behind. The storm thickens again. The window becomes a pale sheet with only your reflection and a faint line of frost along the bottom. In that near blindness, the idea of the track becomes astonishing. Two narrow lines of steel run forward through snow, trees, slopes, bridges, and dark stations, holding the train to its path. You cannot see them, Yet every sound beneath you proves their presence. The rails guide not just the wheels, but the imagination. They say there is a way through. Another signal glows, this one dimmer through the blowing snow. It hovers, trembles, and passes. The train responds with a measured easing, as though acknowledging a quiet command. You imagine the crew in the engine exchanging few words. There is no need for much speech when the work is this concentrated. A nod, a glance, a hand on the throttle, a check of pressure, a look back into the white. The storm is loud against the metal, but the discipline inside the cab is quieter than a library. You settle deeper into the berth, aware now that every peaceful mile has guardian, not heroic in the noisy sense. No grand speeches, no polished medals, no dramatic music swelling in the snow. Just lamps read correctly, orders remembered, levers moved with care, and men staying awake so others may sleep. The signal lights pass one by one through the blizzard, small and steady, like thoughts held firmly against confusion. The train follows them into the white dark, and you rest aside their unseen protection. The train slows until motion becomes almost a question. At first, you think it is only another curve, another cautious easing through the storm, but the wheels lose their steady confidence and settle into a slower turn. The carriage gives a soft shudder. The lamps tremble in their shades. Somewhere beneath the floor, the brakes breathe, release, and breathe again. Then the whole long train rolls forward at a walking pace, as if feeling for the track with its hands. You lift the curtain and look out. The window is pale with frost, but through a small clear patch you see snow piled high along the lower edge of the car. It rises like a white wall beside the wheels, thrown up by wind and the labour of the plough ahead. The forest is hidden, the sky is hidden, even the ground has disappeared into a single soft brightness. The train has entered a place where distance no longer behaves. A lantern 10 yards away looks like a star. A tree 20 feet away looks like a memory. The world has become close, muffled, and strangely tender. The train comes to a stop. Not a dramatic stop. No cry, no crash, no panic. Thank heavens, because bedtime journeys do not need that kind of editorial choice. It is simply stillness after long motion, and the stillness feels enormous. The wheels no longer speak beneath you. The berth no longer rocks. Your body, trained for rhythm, waits for the next sway and does not receive it. For a few breaths, the silence is almost louder than the storm. Outside, wind moves over the cars with a low, brushing sound. Snow strikes the window in little bursts. From somewhere ahead, you hear a distant metallic clank, then voices, faint and swallowed quickly by weather. A lantern appears beyond the glass, moving slowly along the side of the train. It glows amber inside the whiteout, held low by someone walking with care beside the buried track. The light rises, dips, and pauses. You can imagine boots sinking deep, shoulders hunched, gloved hands gripping iron. Winter rail operations often required crews to pause for inspection, switching, snow clearing, or instructions when drifts blocked visibility or threatened safe passage. That plain fact has a new weight in this suspended hour. The stop is not failure. It is caution made visible. The train is strong, but strength is not the same as recklessness. Even steel must sometimes wait for a shovel, a signal, a hand lamp, and a human decision. The passengers begin to wake in layers, not everyone at once. First a cough, then a curtain shifts, then a whisper from the lounge end of the car. A man asks whether you have stopped, although the absence of movement has already made a persuasive argument. A woman answers softly that it seems so. Someone laughs under their breath, not because anything is especially funny, but because uncertainty often invites small politeness to keep it company. A porter passes through the aisle carrying extra blankets. He speaks quietly, telling anyone awake that there is no cause for alarm. His words are simple and calm. The train is waiting while the line ahead is checked. Coffee will be available. Heat is holding well. This last phrase pleases you more than you expected. Heat is holding well. It sounds like a blessing, a weather report, and a moral philosophy all at once. A curious detail from snowy rail travel is that passengers sometimes treated unexpected stops as social occasions. Even in the middle of the night, people who had barely nodded to each other over supper might share a thermos, a peppermint, a newspaper, or a theory about how deep the snow was. The theories naturally tended to grow with every retelling. A drift that began at 3 feet could become taller than a freight depot by sunrise if allowed near a confident storyteller. The young boy with the postcard sits up, hair flattened on one side. He peers into the aisle and asks whether they are stuck. His mother tells him they're only waiting. He considers this distinction with the seriousness of a future judge. Across the way, the older man with spectacles says that trains know how to wait better than people do. No one argues. It is too fine a sentence to disturb. Near the end of the car, a few passengers gather around a small table. The porter brings coffee in thick cups, and the scent travels through the sleeping car. Dark and reassuring, you accept a cup when it comes your way. It warms both hands at once. The coffee is strong enough to remind you that civilization has survived worse things than delayed travel. The cup trembles slightly, not from motion now, but from your own fingers waking in the chill near the window. Outside, lanterns continue to move, one near the front, one farther back. Perhaps crew members checking couplings, brake lines, snow around the wheels, or communication with the engine. Their lights appear and disappear in the storm. Never hurried, never idle. The blizzard tries to erase them, but each returns as a glowing bead of patience. Transportation scholars still debate whether the romance of delayed trains comes from shared inconvenience, the drama of weather, or the rare pause forced upon people who thought they were simply passing through. In this still hour, the answer seems to breathe around you. The pause gathers the passengers into a quieter community. Nobody has chosen it, which makes it oddly honest. No one can rush the mountain, no one can bargain with the snow. Everyone simply waits together inside the warm shell of the train. The lamps glow steadily. Frost thickens along the glass. Coffee cups empty, voices soften. The boy lies down again, defeated by warmth. The older man folds his hands over his blanket. You look once more at the lantern outside, a small flame moving through white darkness, and you feel no hurry now. The journey has not stopped. It has merely lowered its voice. In the stillness before dawn, the train rests in the snow like a breathing creature, gathering patience for the miles ahead. The train begins to feel less like a vessel in the storm, and more like a messenger nearing a door. The motion changes again, not stopping this time, but easing into a quieter confidence. You sense the destination before you see it. The air near the window seems sharper. The darkness beyond the frost feels higher, wider, filled with the unseen weight of mountains and the hush of frozen water. Somewhere ahead, Lake Placid waits under snow, not as a postcard now, but as a real place with chimneys, station lamps, cold streets, sleeping houses, and pines holding white silence in their branches. You sit up slightly and draw the blanket around your shoulders. The glass is cold beside you, but a small patch has cleared enough to reveal passing trees. They move close, then vanish, their trunks black against the storm. The scent inside the car has shifted with the hour. Less supper, less coffee, more wool, linen, metal heat, and that bang outdoor smell brought in by boots and open doors. Pine seems to hover at the edge of it all. Whether truly entering through a draft or rising from your own expectation, the mind, when tired, is a very confident decorator. A railroad sign flashes past, nearly swallowed by snow. Then another. The train is running more slowly now, measuring the last mountain miles with care. The rails curve through cuts where snowbanks rise along the sides, smooth and high like carved walls. In the dim reflection of the window, your face looks softened by sleep and travel. Behind it, the white world slides by in fragments fence, pine, ridge, signal lamp, empty clearing, and the sudden dark suggestion of a lake hidden somewhere below the storm. Lake Placid had already become one of the best-known winter resort towns in the Adirondacks by the mid-20th century, especially after hosting the Winter Olympic Games in 1932. That fact gives the destination a special glow as the train nears it. You're not arriving at a random mountain village. Though every village deserves respect and at least one decent bakery, you're entering a place where sport, leisure, cold air, ambition, and scenery have been woven into public memory. Even in 1958, the name carries a crisp winter brightness. The train passes as a cluster of buildings set back from the track. Their roofs are heavy with snow, their windows dim or dark. One porch light burns over a drifted step. A narrow road runs beside the rails for a while, then disappears behind trees. You imagine tire tracks already filling, the crunch of boots at dawn, the smell of wood smoke rising over the breakfast stoves. The blizzard is still strong, yet its fury feels different near the town. Less like a wall, more like a veil being slowly drawn aside. A charming oddity from Lake Placid's winter culture is that visitors sometimes measure the seriousness of their vacation by how many layers they wore and how bravely they spoke of the cold. A person might arrive from the city in fine shoes, learn one lesson from an icy sidewalk, and by morning speak with great authority about proper boots. Mountain towns have always been excellent teachers. Their lessons are simple, direct, and frequently delivered through the feet. Inside the car, more passengers are awake, not fully awake, perhaps. The kind of awake that has one eye open and no firm opinion about existence. Curtains shift, bags are found, hair is smoothed with damp fingers. A woman fastens her hat while the train sways, pinning it in place with the brave resignation of someone entering public life before sunrise. The boy with the postcard checks it again, as though the printed image might now confirm the town outside. The older man folds his blanket neatly. Some people prepare for arrival with ceremony, others simply stare forward, trusting their coats to explain them. You feel the small sadness that comes when a journey begins to gather its belongings. The moving room that held everyone in one shared rhythm is starting to loosen. Soon the strangers will separate into streets, taxis, hotel lobbies, waiting relatives, and private errands. For now, though, the train still belongs to all of you. The heat still hums, the lamps still glow, the wheels still speak. The final miles stretch like a long-held breath. There is continuing discussion among regional historians about whether Lake Placid's identity was shaped more by sport, wilderness, health tourism, or the steady arrival of visitors seeking a refined version of mountain escape. The question does not need one answer tonight. Through the snowy window, the town seems to contain all those layers, a place of athletic daring. Yes, a place of quiet lakes and pines, certainly. A place where travellers come to breathe differently, sleep deeply, and maybe purchase a sweater they will later describe as practical while knowing it was not. The train rounds another curve, and the storm opens briefly. You see a wide, pale surface beyond the trees, smooth and ghostly under snow. It may be a field, a frozen pond, or a corner of water, locked beneath winter. Your imagination chooses lake, because the name has been waiting in your thoughts for miles. The surface catches a faint grey light from the hidden sky, and for a moment everything becomes still inside you. The journey has a shape now. It has an ending made of cold air and quiet streets. A whistle sounds ahead, softer than the earlier calls, as if the train itself knows it is entering a sleeping town. The note glides over roofs, pines, buried roads, and the invisible lake, passengers reach for gloves. The porter moves down the aisle, reminding people of bags, steps, and slippery platforms. His voice remains calm, but the carriage begins to brighten with alertness. You press your palm once more to the cold glass. Lake Placid is near enough now to feel like breath on the other side of the window. Snow curls past in silver threads. Pine shadows lean close. The rails lead onward, steady and dark beneath their white covering, and the train carries you into the edge of morning with the quiet certainty of a promise almost kept. The first edge of Lake Placid station arrives through snow and dim morning light. Not suddenly, but with the soft unveiling of a place that has been waiting under a white coverlet. The train slows beside low buildings and buried fences, its wheels turning with a tired yet careful grace. You sit forward, blankets slipping from your shoulders, and watch the town take shape in pieces, a lamp under an eave, a platform swept once and already covered again, a station sign rimmed with frost, a line of footprints filling almost as soon as they are made. The train exhales along the platform. Steam drifts past the windows and mingles with the falling snow, turning the view into a moving veil of white and silver. The cars settle with a final gentle pull, and the sound of arrival spreads through the carriage. Latches click. Bags are lowered, curtains slide back, shoes are found, hats adjusted, collars raised. People return from sleep with the solemn confusion of travellers everywhere, as if waking in a moving train has briefly made them citizens of another planet. You stand carefully and gather your things. The floor no longer rocks beneath you, which feels strangely improper after so many hours of motion. Your legs expect sway and receive stillness instead. A porter passes with a calm reminder to mind the step, and his voice carries the quiet authority of someone who has seen winter platforms test human pride many times. Outside, the snow continues to fall in thick, slow flakes, soft enough to look harmless, deep enough to have opinions. By the 1950s, Lake Placid was already known nationally as a winter destination, shaped by mountain hotels, winter sports, clean air, and the memory of the 1932 Winter Olympic Games. That fact gives the station an understated importance. It is not large or grand in the way city terminals can be grand, with high ceilings and crowds rolling like tides. Its grandeur is colder, quieter, tucked beneath snow. It belongs to a mountain town that receives travellers with pine scent, white roofs, and the promise of frozen lakes beyond the platform. The conductor steps down first, coat dark against the snow. A lantern swings at his side even though dawn has begun to pale the sky, and the porter helps the woman with the brown paper parcel, and the boy with the postcard follows, looking around with wide eyes, comparing printed expectation to living weather. The older man with the spectacles pauses at the doorway, tightens his scarf, and gives the platform a look suggesting that the cold has made a personal remark. Then he steps down anyway, because dignity is admirable, but luggage must be collected. You reach the vestibule and feel the cold before the door fully opens. It comes in clean and sharp, smelling of snow, pine, wet wool, coal smoke, and distant wood fires. The metal handrail is cold even through your glove. You descend carefully, 1 foot to the step, 1 foot to the platform, and the snow gives a soft crunch beneath you. The sound is small, but satisfying. After the steady music of rails, the crunch of snow feels like the town speaking in its own low voice. A curious local travel habit in snowy resort towns was the use of sleds, handcarts, and sturdy station wagons to manage luggage when drifts made ordinary movement awkward. Fine trunks and fashionable suitcases, packed with evening clothes and hopeful sweaters, could end up riding through snow like sacks of potatoes. It is a useful lesson in humility. The mountain does not care how carefully you folded your dinner jacket. The mountain would like you to lift your feet and move along. The platform is alive with quiet activity. A hotel driver stands near a vehicle crusted with snow, calling out for arriving guests. A station worker pushes a cart loaded with trunks, its wheels struggling against packed drifts. A woman waves from under a dark umbrella, though the snow seems to fall from every direction and is not especially impressed by umbrellas. A dog appears near the station door, shakes itself vigorously, and trots away with the brisk confidence of a creature who knows exactly where the warm stove is located. You turn and look back at the train. Its windows glow softly, each one holding the last traces of the night. Snow clings to the steps, the roof edges, the couplings, the dark metal sides. The engine ahead breathes in powerful clouds, its labour finally visible in the morning air. It looks less like a machine now, and more like a large animal resting after pulling its burden through the mountains. The comparison may be sentimental, but at this hour sentiment has earned a seat. Researchers continue to disagree over whether arrival scenes matter most because they end a journey, or because they transform motion into memory. Standing under the falling snow, you feel the second answer drawing close. The trip does not vanish when the wheels stall. It gathers itself inside you. The lamps, the berth, the coffee, the windows, the whiteout, the quiet duties, all become part of the town the moment your boots touch the platform. Lake Placid is not merely where you have arrived. It is where the journey changes form. The station door opens, releasing a band of yellow light across the snow. Inside, you glimpse wooden benches, a ticket window, a wall clock, and people rubbing warmth back into their hands. The room looks modest and deeply inviting. You step toward it, carrying your bag, while flakes settle on your coat sleeves and melt slowly into dark spots. The cold brightens your face. The air wakes you without hurry. Behind you, the train continues to breathe. Ahead, the town waits in the hush of morning. Roofs sag under snow. Pines stand black and white against the pale sky. Somewhere beyond the station, the lake lies hidden beneath its winter skin, and the mountains hold their silence like a blessing. You move toward the warmth, hearing the soft crunch of each step, while snowfall covers the platform in patient layers, as if arrival itself should be tucked gently back into sleep. Inside the station, warmth gathers around you in layers. First it touches your face, then your hands, then the damp wool at your shoulders. The waiting room is modest, with wooden benches worn smooth by years of coats, parcels, and tired travellers. Stove gives off a steady heat from one corner, and ticking softly as metal expands and settles. Near the ticket window, a wall clock marks the morning with calm authority, as if the storm outside has no influence over time whatsoever. Very brave of the clock, really, very official. You stand for a moment without moving, letting your body understand that the ride has ended while the rhythm of the rails continues inside you. Your feet are on a still floor, yet some quiet part of you is still swaying. The wheels seem to turn in memory. The lamps seem to glow behind your eyes. Even the soft hiss of the stove blends with the remembered breath of the train, until the station feels less like a separate place and more like the final warm room of the same long journey. Travellers gather their belongings around you. A woman brushes snow from her sleeves. A man checks a claim ticket against his suitcase with the grave concentration of a banker reviewing a national debt. The boy with the postcard holds it up toward the window, comparing the printed blue sky with the living white storm outside. He seems disappointed for only a second, then delighted, because real snow has a power no postcard can manage. Printed mountains are nice. Falling snow lands on your hat. That is a stronger argument. Period records indicate that winter resort arrivals often depended on a chain of local services, including hotel cars, baggage handlers, station agents, road crews, and shopkeepers who adjusted their days around trains and weather. Arrival was not a single moment. It was a handoff, The railway delivered you to the town, and then the town began its own work of receiving you. Someone would carry trunks, someone would clear the steps, someone would pour coffee, someone would say, with complete seriousness, that the storm was not so bad, because mountain people have a special talent for insulting weather by underestimating it. You walk toward the station window and look out at the train. Snow falls between you and the cars, thick and quiet, softening every line. The passenger windows are dimmer now. Some curtains open, some still drawn. Steam drifts along the platform and curls under the roof edge. The engine waits ahead, black and breathing, its metal sides wet with melted snow. For hours it was mostly sound and motion. Now it has become a shape you can study, powerful, tired, and still warm from effort. One odd scrap of railway life is that many travellers kept small souvenirs from journeys that were not meant as souvenirs at all. A punched ticket, a dining car menu, a matchbook, a luggage tag, a paper napkin with a railway crest, or even a timetable folded into a coat pocket could become a memory object. It is humble magic. An item designed for use becomes proof that a night truly happened. You touch the ticket in your pocket and feel its little punched mark, a small wound in cardboard, perhaps, but also a seal on memory. The afterglow of the journey settles slowly. It is not excitement now. It is quieter than that. It is the feeling of having crossed danger while wrapped in ordinary comforts. Blanket, cup, curtain, lamp, seat, spoon, voice, handrail. Nothing about these things seemed grand while they surrounded you. Yet together they built a shelter strong enough to carry you through a mountain blizzard. You begin to understand why people remember old train rides with such tenderness. Not because every mile was perfect. The air could be smoky. The berth could be narrow. The coffee could be stern enough to discipline a spoon. Yet the whole experience had shape, rhythm, and human care. Commentators remain divided over whether nostalgia for rail travel comes from the trains themselves or from the slower pace of attention they required. Perhaps people miss the machinery. Perhaps they miss the shared rooms, the visible route, the long hours when nothing could be hurried. Perhaps they miss a world where looking out a window counted as an activity and not a failure of productivity. Standing in the station, you feel that the answer is gently tangled. The train gave you time, but it also gave that time a sound. Steel wheels made patience audible. A hotel driver opens the station door, and cold air sweeps in with a sparkle of snow. He calls a name, someone answers, bags are lifted, the door closes again, and the stove resumes its quiet authority. On a bench nearby, an elderly couple sits close together, their hands wrapped around paper cups. They do not speak much. They do not need to. Their coats touch at the sleeves. The woman smiles toward the window as the engine breathes. The man nods once, as if acknowledging an old friend. You step outside again for a final look from the platform. The snow crunches beneath your shoes. Morning has brightened, but the sky remains thick and low. Lake Placid lies beyond the station buildings, hidden behind drifts, roofs, pines, and the soft veil of storm. The town feels hushed, not asleep exactly, but waiting to unfold. Smoke rises from chimneys, a shop sign swings lightly, somewhere a shovel scrapes against a step. The world is becoming practical again, but slowly, and you are grateful for the delay. The train gives a small release of steam, and the sound passes through you like a sigh. Soon the cars will be cleaned, turned, serviced, or sent onward according to needs larger than your own. The passengers will scatter into hotels, homes, streets, and stories, yet for this quiet minute, the journey remains whole. You stand between warmth and snow, still hearing the rails inside your chest, still carrying the glow of lamps and the shelter of moving steel. The blizzard has not disappeared. It has simply become part of the memory, softened at the edges, bright beyond the windows and strangely comforting. The last lantern burns beside the platform, small and gold in the morning snow. You see it through the station window, a patient flame held inside glass, softened by frost, standing near the place where the train rests. Around it, the snowfall continues in slow, generous layers. Each flake seems to fall with careful intention, covering footprints, smoothing cart tracks, rounding the edges of trunks, benches, rails, and roof lines. The world is not erased, it is only quieted. You linger near the window with your bag at your side, not quite ready to leave the spell of the journey. The station room murmurs around you. A ticket clerk sorts papers, a suitcase buckle snaps shut. Someone laughs softly over a misplaced glove. Because even in a mountain blizzard, human dignity can be defeated by accessories. The stove ticks in the corner, and the heat presses gently against the cold still clinging to your coat. Outside, the train gives a low breath of steam. It rises, curls, and vanishes into the falling snow. The cars that carried you through the dark now look still, almost shy, as if the night of labour has made them humble. Their windows no longer show rushing white fields or ghostly reflections. They hold only dim lamps, shadows, and the last traces of passengers moving inside. The journey is becoming memory in front of you, not all at once, but slowly, the way a lantern fades in daylight. Rail passenger service in the United States continued to decline during the later 20th century as automobiles. Highways and air travel changed how people crossed long distances. That is a clear historical fact. Yet here it does not feel like a statistic. It feels like a soft ache in the rails, a whole way of travelling, with meals served under lamps and beds tucked behind curtains, will become rarer, then cherished, then retold by people who remember the sound better than the timetable. You step closer to the glass. The final lantern outside wavers in a gust. Snow swirls around it, but the flame remains steady, protected inside its little frame. It reminds you of every small wound carried through the night, the dining car lamps, the berth lamp, the signals glowing in the storm, the station windows appearing and disappearing along the route. None of them stopped the blizzard. Oh, they simply gave shape to the dark. Sometimes that is enough. More than enough, really. The universe rarely offers a refund, so one accepts a good lamp with gratitude. A curious footnote from old railroad life is that some station agents kept lanterns long after newer lighting made them less necessary, partly from habit, partly because a handheld light still meant authority. Warning, warning, welcome, and farewell all at once. A lantern could guide a passenger, halt a train, mark a danger, or simply say, here is a human being in the weather. It is hard to improve on that. Modern devices may blink more cleverly, but few have such quiet manners. The soundscape begins to thin, the engine breathes less often, voices scatter towards doors. The station clock continues its measured work. Outside, a baggage cart rolls away, its wheels crunching over packed snow. The porter steps down from a car to adjust his cap and exchanges a few words with the conductor. Their work has not ended just because your story has softened. Cars must be checked, bedding must be gathered, passengers must be helped. The railway continues in practical details while your mind drifts toward the warmth of remembrance. Scholars still differ over whether the deepest power of old train journeys lies in their technology, their social world, or their ability to make time feel spacious. As you watch snow settle over the rails, you feel no need to choose. The technology carried you. The people cared for you. The time opened around you. Together they made a shelter that moved through danger without demanding that you fight the storm yourself. You were allowed to be small, warm, and carried. There is ancient comfort in that. You step outside once more. The cold meets you cleanly, but not harshly. Morning has softened the blizzard into a quieter fall. The platform boards creak under your shoes. The lantern glows beside you. A hotel car waits beyond the station, its windows misted, its driver stamping warmth into his feet. Somewhere in town, breakfast is beginning. Coffee will be poured. Fires will be stirred. Shovels will scrape steps. The lake will remain hidden under snow, patient and pale beneath the winter sky. You turn toward the train for a last look. It stands in white mourning, dark metal lined with frost, each car holding the echo of wheel beats. You can almost hear them still, steady and low. Though the wheels are quiet now, the rhythm has moved inward. It rests in your breathing, in the heaviness of your eyelids, in the calm that comes from having crossed the night and found warmth waiting. The lantern flickers once. Snow gathers on your sleeve. You lift your bag and walk toward the waiting town, and carrying the train with you is a sound, a glow, a narrow berth, a cup of coffee and a window full of storm. The old passenger train remains behind, half hidden by steam and snowfall. And then, as you turn away, it begins to dissolve into memory, gentle as a dream leaving no demand, only peace. And now, as the tracks grow quiet and the snow settles over every roof and pine branch, you can let the journey rest inside you. Perhaps you love the glow of the dining car, the brave little lanterns, the hidden work of the crew, or the way the blizzard made warmth feel precious. Share the moment you liked best in the comments, along with the place where you are listening and the hour beside you. Your words help this quiet community feel less distant, like travellers nodding to one another across a softly lit carriage. When you are ready for another calm night of history, step into the next video on the channel and let a different road, river, ship, or train carry you onward. For now, breathe slowly. Feel the blanket of winter close gently around the world and rest in the hush. Blessings to you and your family.